What is up, everybody? And thank you for joining us tonight on the Bearded Browns. So, just me and Chad here. And we got to give out prayers to Angel's family. He's going through a lot of stuff right now. So, if you guys could do that, that'd be greatly appreciated. And we clearly have quite a show planned ahead for some conversation, right, Chad?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I vented Sunday after the game, and I apologize if I offended anybody in that. But we're here Tuesday. I'm a little more calm, cool, and collected. But today is the day we are going to talk again about the Cleveland Browns. How was your weekend, Chad?
Good. I'm just bombing a protein shake over here. I'm so tired. My weekend was pretty good. I mean, the Browns game was miserable, but the rest of the weekend was totally fine. Been trying to watch some baseball, and of course, they didn't close out the second game, but the first game from the Guardians was awesome. I'm out in San Diego, so I'm watching the Padres kind of move past the Braves and now on to a 1-1 with the Dodgers. So got some good baseball going on. And outside of the Browns, yeah, things have been pretty great.
My wife and I celebrated our 6-year anniversary, and we drank a lot, ate a lot of food, then went axe throwing, and then drank some more. And
Wow,
then,
an axe throwing anniversary.
I'm telling you right now, if you want aggression to take out on the Browns, go do some axe throwing.
Oh my gosh, I believe that. That sounds like the perfect activity. As long as there's not like fans from a different team in the same building, because I'm not sure you could control just not like.
Dude, I'm telling you. So they give you like one line to start at, and that line you could hit it almost every single time. But if you there's two other lines further back. If you step into those two lines, you never hit the board. You'll hit the board, it just won't plant. It was fun, but kept me out of trouble. And then I got sick again.
I've never been axe throwing, but my girl did it as part of like a team building thing at her work like 2 years ago, and apparently she got like a prize for being the most consistent. And I was like, of all things, because like she does not tout herself as an incredible like athlete or marksman, but of all things, she just was pretty precise on the axe throwing. And she came home with this like axe throwing like champion mug thing, and I was like, you've gotta be kidding me.
I can see that as a morale builder. Maybe that's what the Cleveland Browns should do. Go axe throwing.
Yeah, go get some of that frustration out, man. They've got to be reeling right now.
Yeah. Not really much good news, obviously, to talk about. You guys watched the Sunday show that I did in the evening. I let my frustrations out there, and now Chad is here to let his frustrations out. I wish we were
Yeah, and
sponsored by
honestly,
them.
I was telling people online, like, this is not going to be like our therapy Tuesday, quote unquote, like version of the podcast. Cause like, I don't know that there's not much therapy to do for me. Like, you can try to find positives. There weren't many. It's more of a like, take a step back and figure out like what is going on and what do you do from here kind of a Tuesday, because we're a quarter into the season now, and really it is not how even me, I was like on the most pessimistic side of Browns fans, and it is not even where I thought we would be at this point. So it's all bad. So we got to get into it a little bit and figure out what's actually happening out there and kind of quell some of the overreaction, but at the same time kind of back up some of the reaction that we think is appropriate at this point.
I mean, I guess there could be an ounce of good news, and that's I wouldn't even say it's good news because it's a Mike Hall coming back after the 5-game suspension that the NFL handed out. Domestic violence case. That's never good. You don't want to hear that, but he's back. Will he play? I don't think he's going to play for probably another week or two at least, but we'll see.
Yeah, because he hasn't been on the suspension. He's been on the commissioner's exempt list, which they counted 4 games there. And then he only had to sit out 1 additional game as part of the suspension, which is 5 is fair for that kind of a thing, I guess. I didn't think it would actually even be that long, but he hasn't been in the building now for over a month. So no practice, no film, no nothing. He hasn't been in contact with the team. So it would be pretty surprising although we have some injuries and the defense could use some help, if he's ready to get right in the room and go.
Yeah,
That
that
would
would be
be,
great.
yeah, that would be pretty surprising to me, though. Wouldn't be shocked if it takes them a week or two to get him up to speed. Although he doesn't have the most complicated job on the team. Not that anything is easy, but like as far as if he knows the stunts and he knows like the scheme, his job is typically like from the middle, put pressure on the quarterback. So maybe he'd be in sooner than some others, but he also has to make sure he's in shape. You don't want him to like run in there and pull a hamstring or get hurt right away. So we'll see when he can get in there. But again, as much as tackling has been a problem, I don't think the center of our defense is our big weak spot right now. But it's still good to get him in the building, and because the point of this team is finding out like what you have in everybody, it's good to get him in the building and going.
Guru says I'd be surprised to see him before the bye.
Yeah, what week is our bye?
Week
I'm
10.
kind of lost. Is it week 10? Well, I think he could be back before that, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's another week or two at least.
Yeah. And other semi-decent news, I guess, the other Deshaun Watson case is settled for an undisclosed amount of money. Jane Doe is settled.
What a rough fanship we have. That the two good pieces of good news we have in the news section are two players who are like accused of some kind of like harassment or
Domestic
sexual
violence
or
and
domestic, like have settled their case and have now like finished their last punishment for the recent charge. And now that is behind them. It's like laughably, like you laugh so you don't cry at this point because you're like, that's our good news. Deshaun finished paying off the last girl to have a lawsuit against him, and Mike Hall served his 5-game suspension for dragging his girlfriend out of the house in a fight or whatever. Like, oh my god, guys,
so
get
when,
it together.
when we go to do the good, bad, and ugly, we should have added the good for that. That's what we should have done.
Yeah, the good is all the troublemakers on our team are potentially past their recent charges. So we skipped good. By the way, this is coming up later, you guys. We skipped good. It's just the bad and the ugly this week because let's be honest, I would feel like an ass like trying to put a good out there right
Absolutely.
now.
Agreed.
They don't deserve it.
James Frank said, I read something that Watson is going after the woman that falsely accused him. I don't know if, I mean, you paid them already, so I think that's pretty much settled. I don't know.
Of course, people mention like the settlement. I'm just going to say this because I said I talked to a lawyer friend. They don't make these settlements because they're necessarily guilty. They make these settlements because court in domestic or court in like civil cases are not based on a burden of proof the way that criminal charges are. And when it becomes this he said, she said, and given his past, it's basically about how much the judge believes and how much penalty they want to give as a result of how much they believe. And so rather than dragging it out and potentially paying something at the end anyway, they just pay because it saves them in the end from getting the drag out of the cases, and it means you can include things like non-disclosure. So now they have to stop talking about it. They're not going to go on radio and do this stuff. And so I'm not saying by any means he's innocent. It seems very clear that he's been in some shady business. But just for everybody that was like messaging with us on Twitter, like, well, he paid, so he must be guilty of everything she said. These were the worst allegations, and paying doesn't necessarily mean anything except for his lawyers telling him, you got to get out from under this last one. We got to move on from this for the rest of your life and career. And so who knows? Apparently, he was with like 60 different women. When you hear the type of money that these women are looking for, up to like $1 million, we don't know what they're actually getting. But according to my lawyer friend, he's like, that's what makes it so easy for another girl in that 60 to be like, well, I hooked up with Deshaun and he never ended up, we've never talked since and he doesn't mean anything to me. Like maybe I should also be due some compensation. They all have the same lawyer. Again, we just don't know. Like he seems shady. They seem like it's an easy story. So we don't know if it's true or not. But the more this is just in the past, the more I don't have to talk about it anymore, and that at least is a relief to me.
Do you think that his bank account's going to start looking like his QBR here soon?
I mean, let's face it, he wanted that guaranteed money for a reason. They knew some of this stuff was coming down. And he was like, I don't want to get cut from a team. I don't want to lose this money. Like, if I make enough, I could just pay this off and move on. And it's still not becoming worth it yet. But at this point, it's like, who knows? I mean, he's paid a lot. You know, he may not go to any kind of like legal penalty or jail, or there's going to be no real charges or indictments. But like, he's paid a crap load, but he's got a crap load. So whatever, deal with it.
Angels, excuse me. Angels actually watching. He said, "Good, top 5 draft pick right now." Me yelling, "Get my quarterback."
Yeah, and I said somebody online before, like, that's honestly, we'll get to it, but like, we're gonna get to a section of like what you do next, and you guys will hear like, I'm not for benching Deshaun Watson, and that's part of the reason why. But I don't want to get us too out of order. We better keep rolling through kind of the breakdown here.
You take. You want to take the bad this week? I'll take the ugly.
Yeah, that's fine with me. So basically, the bad is, and we've described this before. The good is, something good on a team perspective. Nothing this week. The bad is something bad on a team perspective, and the ugly is more like something in the game that was a bad situation or something you just didn't want to see. For me, the bad as a whole is just that the Browns lost another game and have dug themselves into this 1-4 hole, which now defines the season as, for the most part, having the playoffs out of reach. And I don't think anybody out there is looking at the way this team plays and goes, if they were a little better, the playoffs look realistic. They just don't look good. But my bad isn't necessarily even against the Commanders, because that team actually looks incredible. I think in the power rankings this week for Yahoo and like 33rd team and some others, they were ranked like 5th and 7th. Washington just looks really good. They look like last year's Texans, and they blew us out, but they've also just been playing incredibly. My problem is the Browns set themselves in such a crappy position that
Let it out.
they lost to the Giants, a team that I still think they're more talented than, and they lost to the Raiders, another team I think they were more talented than on that day. And because of that, now this Redskins loss was something that they just could not afford. So they're 1-4. That puts the team in a position where they probably know they're not playing for the playoffs. And although there's still motivation to play because individual guys need to get re-signed, as a team, you have some pride that you want to play together for your guys, for your friends, for your teammates. But I guess the negative of it to me is that you now lost one big piece of motivation, and that's playing for the playoffs, because I would bet that no Browns fans believe that they're going to make the playoffs. And at this point, probably, well, some will. There's always somebody unrealistic. I'll bet out of this 53-man roster, there's 2 people on that team that are positive enough to be like, we can pull it together and make the playoffs. Even those guys are like probably sitting there going, shoot, like, I can't believe we're not going to go anywhere this year. And to me, that's the bad, is that 1 month into the season, 5 games in, probably most of the team, the coaches, and almost all the fan base in Cleveland and around the country are like, well, the Browns are done. And that's a position we haven't been in even when Deshaun was suspended and we had Jacoby Brissett playing. I don't think we were in a position after 5 games where we were like, this whole season's over, because there was something to look forward for. Maybe Brissett could pull a couple wins. Maybe the defense could start to gel. Maybe Deshaun would come back and look okay. Now there's just not much to hang your hat on. So that's the bad, is just this whole first 5 game position they put themselves in by losing to the teams that they definitely are better than, because they just couldn't get it together.
I completely agree. I'm going to hit this comment. Guru says, I think, I'm sorry, draft Shador Sanders. God, I hope not. And then
I know, and I'm hearing it, and I'm not going to count it out, but
Well,
I'm
here's
with you. You had already said this weekend, like, he seems like a nightmare, and I'm like, I agree, but it's just too early for me to count him out. I'm going to watch the rest of this college season, and I'll actually probably be paying attention to him now.
Well, then he completely rebutted with said Sanders would be such a Jimmy Haslam move.
It's I don't even know if it's Jimmy move as much as it does seem like a Browns move where you draft him and it's just a nightmare. But could you just imagine, like, his dad would be like, no, don't draft him. He's not going there. I can't imagine his dad's going to let him go here.
Yeah, be
And
a
when you
whole
get
new
picked in the
Odell
top
Beckham.
10, you have the ability to do that, to say, like, no, thanks.
Yeah. Let's get on to the ugly. The 4th and goal at the 2-yard line. Obviously, there was multiple penalties that set him back. We got back in there, and it just at that 4th and 2, man. When you've seen everybody just start mainly Deshaun Watson walking off the field, and Cleveland went up in flames when that happened. I was pretty
I
pissed
saw
off.
the tweets that are like, he quit. He's walking straight to the locker room. I'm like, it's not walking to the locker room. And I don't think he quit, but I do think that entire sequence is the epitome of, like, why this season is a nightmare. And, like, do you remember it well enough to, like, kind of walk through it?
The whole play, the whole 4th and goal.
That whole, like, so they got down, right? Let's start with Deshaun. They get down the field and they get it to the 2-yard line. And now it's like 1st and goal or something like that at the 2-yard line.
And I believe Zach Zinter had a false start, correct?
Which moved them back to immediately, from 1st and goal at the 2 to 1st and goal at the 7.
And then downhill from there.
And then there was then Deshaun, I think, got sacked on the next play, which made it 2nd and 8 from the 8. And then on the next play, I think maybe Deshaun threw an incomplete pass, had to throw it away, or did throw it away.
No, that's the one where he hit Judy right in the numbers and he dropped it.
Oh, and Judy dropped it. You're right. Judy dropped the touchdown pass. So now we have Deshaun getting sacked. They lose another yard. They got Judy dropping a touchdown pass, and then he threw it away. So now it's 4th and 8 from the 8, and Stefanski's still thinking, because of where they are in the game, right? We're still going to go for it. Let's line up. We got to play for this, and we can do it. And then they get in the huddle. There's maybe 10 seconds left on the game clock as they're in the huddle, and Deshaun just starts walking to the sideline, and people are what happened? And I had to kind of, like, look back at it and see that in the huddle there's 12 guys. So Deshaun's in the huddle. They're getting ready to call this play that they think they can actually score on a 4th and 8 to go, for him to probably look up and be like, wait, you're not supposed to be out here. And then it's like, what do they do there? You either, like, now you're not going to be able to pull this play off, or by the time you line up, you're going to end up with a 5-yard additional penalty, and you're not going for it on 4th and 13. So it's like he's just walking off the field in frustration, puts his hand on Stefanski's back. Stefanski's, like, just shaking his head in disbelief. Like, how did this get so muffed up? And that
brings it back to coaching. The thing was
literally everything that could have went wrong, though, because we've talked about, like, Deshaun. He took that sack. He misses a play basically on that one. Jerry Jeudy has a drop on that one. We've been complaining about the receiver drops. Zach Zinter has a penalty. We've been complaining about the offensive line both not blocking well and having too many penalties. And then 12 men on the field. We've been talking about how this team feels disorganized, poorly coached, and, like, not ready. Everything that's a problem with this team happened on your ugly in this one series. It's ridiculous. I mean, literally, if somebody had somehow missed a tackle, then we would have covered every problem with this team.
Yeah. Inside source says Watson had to poop on 4th down. You heard it here first. At first,
at least when Lamar had to run in and poop, he ran back out and led his team to a victory. Where's that? Where's that on our team?
Honestly, when that whole thing went down, I was kind of pissed off because you've seen Stefanski just like, are you serious? Why? Like, dude, you got to realize that you have 12 men on the field. Deshaun realized it, and Amari Cooper was sitting there counting.
Yep.
There's 12 men on the field. I mean, what do you do?
And
You
I don't
burn
know
a
whose
timeout?
mistake that even is, but it all comes down to like they're not ready. Like I don't know if Tillman ran out there when he wasn't supposed to, or there's an extra lineman when they were supposed to not have somebody. I was trying to look at the field on a paused screen and see who was out there and try to anticipate who was not supposed to be out there. But I didn't know, like, was there not supposed to be a running back on that play? Were they, what were they doing? We don't know. But somebody was out there that wasn't supposed to. And all that signifies to me is like what you said. They're not ready. They weren't ready. Like we can't have those mistakes in those critical moments. They're going to run out there and try like a very risky 4th and 8 play. And that's hard enough. You want to get out there, line up quick, catch them by surprise with whatever formation you have. And you can't do it if you're in the huddle. And you don't want to take the penalty, and you really don't want to use the timeout there either. You want to get out there and run that play.
Yeah. All right, we're going to move along to the media takes. I will get to some of these comments here shortly. The Dan
so
Orlovsky
this is a new
video.
segment of ours. It's the media take breakdown. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through a couple takes from media members per week and just kind of go over like what our thoughts are on them. So we're going to bust through 3 this week.
And this one I actually have a video lined up for with Angel's opinion in here. So Angel's at the show tonight, just, in a different form. I'm going to play this real quick, and we're going to talk about it for a little bit. Hold on 1 second.
I know the quick take is simple, blame Kevin for his play calling, but what Dan Orlovsky said on ESPN this morning is spot on. Take a listen.
If you ever want to watch a situation where a head coach has absolutely no say what's going on, it's happening in Cleveland. There's no way that anyone can tell me that Kevin Stefanski, who's a freaking 2-time coach of the year, is trotting out Deshaun Watson on a consistent basis and in his heart believes that's what's best for the football team. That is 100% either an ownership or a front office decision. Stefanski's offense is the Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Gary Kubiak offense. He doesn't run that anymore. And that's not because of his choice. I guarantee it. You're watching an offense being forced on a play caller in the spread out shotgun. Let's hope that you can go be a playmaker offense. And so there's a disconnect between the talent that they have and the player.
The issue isn't Kevin. The issue is the system. You bring in Ken Dorsey, who was a horrible play caller in Buffalo, and you're trying to mix oil and water together, and it's just not working. Get rid of Dorsey. Get rid of Watson, keep Coach Kevin, give him a quarterback that can play under center and run his system and watch him be successful. He did it with 5 other quarterbacks last year.
And you heard it from Angel. He says, get rid of Watson and get rid of Dorsey. Keep Stefanski. He did it with 5 other quarterbacks last year. They seem to be the common denominator. Dan.
Yeah, and so it sounds like too in that Orlovsky is not only referring to like Kevin, he doesn't believe Kevin would want to be playing Watson. It also sounds like he doesn't believe Kevin would want to be playing this offense. So he's kind of right. He's kind of saying he thinks both Dorsey and Watson are kind of put on Kevin.
I mean, we watch it week in and week out when we watch other football games. Lining up in shotgun, in my opinion, with no running back is a dead giveaway. You're going to obviously throw the ball.
Mm-hmm. Which they want to. I mean, Dorsey's offense is the one coming from Buffalo in 2021 in the first half or the first 2/3 of 2022. They didn't run the ball. There's a reason they let Singletary and Moss just walk, and both of those guys are semi-successful somewhere else. And there's a reason that Cook in Buffalo was borderline a useless piece in 2022, and the second half of 2023 and this year has just exploded in usage because Dorsey's offense is based on throwing like 65 to 70 something % of the time.
I get that to an extent. But you got to tell Deshaun's ass, since it's not working in shotgun, to line up behind the center, play action. I've watched it work this whole entire weekend, dude. Every freaking play action. I want to cuss again. I'm getting mad.
The tough thing is it feels like they took this giant pivot, and I agree. I wouldn't be shocked if this was not Stefanski's call to like hire Dorsey. It's because he's bringing in somebody who's not running his offense. Now I have heard from Stefanski saying, I'm good with bringing in Dorsey because he's a smart guy and I like being around smart offensive minds where I can, bring in more. But you have to think at this point, like, it's so off from what he was doing with less talented quarterbacks and constant quarterback changes that he's got to be feeling like, oh, we implemented this offense all off season and it is not it. So,
and I gather that, like, so do you think after Stefanski last year did it with 5 quarterbacks, came out this year, everybody is saying that camp looked like Camp Cupcake. It was just easy. Everything was easy go. Like, we're going to just go out there and play football. I don't care about the 2-time coach of the year shit. I don't care about defensive player of the year. You got to show up the next year and show that you're still that same guy at the end of the day.
Yeah. And we talked about this last week, even like they look like they may have come into the season kind of after reading their own clippings, which again, to me, that's the players doing that, but that's on the coaches to make sure. Like Mike Tomlin would never let that happen. And we've talked about him quite a bit. And I think that's like one of his strengths as a coach is he would never let that happen. I don't believe someone like Kyle Shanahan lets his team come into the season reading their own clippings and being like, we're pretty good. We're good. Let's just roll forward. I don't know. Bill Belichick, one of the greatest coaches of all time, comes off Super Bowl years. And although they had some slow starts, I never believed he let his team like rest on their laurels. It was what you did is absolutely useless now. What you do this season is what counts. And that's not the vibe that we're getting. And yeah, I do think that comes down to coaching.
It's
more
all
than the players,
aspects.
but it's on both. They're professionals. They
Oh,
need
yeah.
to be better. But the coach has to set that standard of like, this is our culture, is that you guys grind for better. Last year ended in disappointment. They should have came out this year like hungry for revenge to start off, and they didn't. And there's a lot of reasons for that we can get into more than just coaching. It's been a discombobulated offseason. Tons of guys coming off surgeries, a lot of guys missing camp. Deshaun, of all people, like rolling in and slowly acclimating to his shoulder and increasing. Cooper sitting out. Jerry Jeudy missed a bunch of camp, hurt. Newsome and Tomlinson were hurt. Elijah Moore spent a lot of time hurt. There's just we know about all the linemen that have been out. It's just a series of problems, but it doesn't excuse the fact that they need to pull it together, and they should have been able to watch the Dallas game and the Jacksonville game and say, hey guys, 2 weeks are done. You blew one, you pulled one off. Like, we need to dial in and get this fixed. Now, that was your preseason, and you came out 500. You got 2 winnable games ahead of you, but only if you go out and play your best ball, and they didn't. And now they're 3 games deeper into that.
You know what I want to see? Pre-game. I don't care about their drip or what they're wearing. Get over all that shit. Walk into that stadium and win a football game. That's what I want to see. I am so sick of the pre.
I'm ready for no celebrations.
Before.
I'm ready for, I got a first down. Here's the ball. I'm going to line back up. Nothing to cheer about until we win 2 or 3, and then we can start getting hyped again, especially on the offensive side.
Yes.
If the defense needs that cheering to like, have their camaraderie or whatever, fine. But let's keep it to like, oh, I made a great tackle. We made a stop. Let's cheer for a second, but save our energy because we'll probably be back out there 3 plays later.
That's a Jim Schwartz thing, though. Having them, he likes the defense to celebrate, and that's his thing.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. But like,
when you're behind,
I'm ready for a quick like, I blocked, I knocked this ball down. Good for me. Quick like high fives with your guys, and then get ready for the next play.
Yep.
I swapped the order a second there because so Dan's talking about how he doesn't believe, like he believes Stefanski is strapped with this offensive coordinator and quarterback. So I switched over because there's two conflicting reports this week. One was from Mary Kay Cabot, where she said she believes fully from talking with the organization that Stefanski has the final call on who would play quarterback week to week. And she did say if he was going to make a change, he would talk with Andrew about it and they would like make an organizational decision. But she does believe that he has the final call to be able to bench Watson when that's time. Pete Smith, on the other hand, immediately, like the same morning, released an article that like Jimmy Haslam has not made this call, and on
Deshaun
Watson
Watson.
remaining the quarterback for Stefanski, kind of like backing up a little bit. I don't think he talked much about Barry in the article, but kind of backing up the idea that some fans think like Haslam is forcing the organization to stay with Watson. And so both Pete Smith and Mary Kay Cabot are saying like that's not the case. Stefanski does have the final say on who's going to go out there at quarterback at the end of the day. And that was sort of an opposite of what we talked about from like the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, where Jay and I think somebody else both said, I think that like ownership or the GM is making Stefanski play these guys. And it also kind of goes a little bit against Orlovsky saying, no, that's not the case. Stefanski could bench him if he wanted to. Do we believe it?
That's reckless speculation. That's what that is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like they're both reporters. You know, they're not like just a random fan account. They're both Cleveland journalists. So it's like, are they getting the information from somewhere, or are they just, you know, Dan sounds like he's not. Orlovsky starts saying like, I don't believe that Stefanski, being as good of a coach he is, would be making this decision. So he's not saying he's hearing anything from the organization. The other two are saying we are hearing, and this is not Haslam, and this is final stay Stefanski.
You know what kind of pisses me off about the whole ordeal, to be honest with you, is that I'm so sick of hearing stuff from Cleveland reporters rather than Kevin Stefanski himself. Again, in the presser yesterday that he had, I don't know if you saw that at all. I should have actually queued that up for the show tonight, but again, we're not making the plays we need to make. We need to play better. But you don't hear anything else outside of that. You could literally put his press conferences on repeat every week, and it's the same ordeal.
Yeah, I think, but I just say the same thing to fans for like last year when they were magically pulling off these wins against all odds. Nobody was worried about it. It's just, I think the fact that we want answers so bad is because it looks like trash and we just want answers. But I just think coaches don't give them. It's just a bummer for us because when it looks this bad, we want some truth. But I don't know that it's best for him to tell the truth.
I mean, do you think somebody's up there saying, like, here, this is what you can say, this is what you can't say? It's like a presidential debate up there.
Yeah, I mean, they probably have a PR staff, but I think the bigger thing is they probably just, even before the season starts, I'm sure, like as an organization, they've decided, and they probably tell the players too, here's what we say to the media and here's what we don't. I know Bill Belichick used to have a huge like rule of like what you did not say to the media in New England, and I wouldn't be surprised by that. I mean, I guess to everybody out there, like, sure, I would love the truth also. I'd love a truth serum session with Stefanski, or to like be one of his friends where he's just like venting to me. But the reality is, like, I don't think you have a head coach at the podium anywhere who's not at the end of his rope saying like, yeah, the offense that Dorsey brought in here is bullshit and I hate it and it sucks. And good luck watching it for the next 12 games. And by the way, Deshaun blows. Like, I just don't know.
It's like the inevitable Cleveland ordeal, man. It never fails.
Yeah, like, I mean, I don't know what he's going to say. Like, yeah, he says, like, I need to coach better. This isn't working. You can try to read between the lines on some, like, things, too. But it's like, I just don't think you're going to get anything from these press conferences. I don't even think they're going to get a lot from, like, inside information from, like, the reporters. But over the last couple years, like, it's been years since they've picked up Deshaun Watson. I do think it's probably realistic to think somebody who's been fired already or who knows the organization well could have spilled to somebody how that actually went down. And it sounds like it did. From the big thing going around right now is that Andrew Berry, several people were saying that they thought Andrew Berry was the one who initially made the call for the Browns to move on from Baker Mayfield and inquire about Deshaun Watson. And just inquire, or not move on from Baker Mayfield, but like consider moving on from Baker Mayfield to inquire about Deshaun Watson. This was on The Fan this week, and I forget which reporter. I think it was Daryl Ryder, maybe also on this one. And he was like, I'm just going to tell you, he's saying on there, like, I heard it was Barry. And Ryder said, yeah, that's what we've all heard. That's what all the reporters have heard, that it was actually Barry. But Barry was willing to keep Baker. When Baker decided, I heard you looked into Deshaun, now I demand a trade. It was Haslam that said, okay, I don't want to end up with nobody. You're allowed to spend whatever you need to get Watson here to change his mind. And that's how he ended up with the bottomless deal, the guaranteed money.
But do you remember we got the no at first, and then Haslam said, hey, go ahead and guarantee the money. Boom.
Yeah. And the Texans had already accepted their trade offer. The Texans already said, like, you have a trade offer that would appeal to us, but it's up to Deshaun because he's got his no trade clause. And so Deshaun said, no thanks to Cleveland. And he was looking to go to one of those couple teams down south, Atlanta, Carolina, New Orleans, or Miami. The Texans shut down the Colts because they're in the division. And I forget who else might have looked into them, the Titans or somebody, I forget. But and Deshaun had decided, like, I want to go. It might have also been Tampa Bay, actually. I can't remember. I thought there was another.
There was a bunch of shit going on, like when that.
Yeah, there's about 6 or 7 teams, but Deshaun basically was like, no, sorry, Cleveland, I want to go to one of these teams in the South, probably Atlanta, New Orleans, or Carolina. And then basically Carolina said, we're willing to guarantee you 2 years, but no longer. And that's when Haslam said, hey, Baker's demanding a trade. We cannot lose out on Deshaun now that it's gone this far. And that's where it ended up getting the permission to make him a guaranteed deal. So just to clear the air there, that's what most sources are agreeing to. So
I want to say that Mike Uhas says the magic was Flacco. Mind you, he threw interceptions, but at least they can complete them. And Guru said, forget Flacco. He did it with PJ Walker, DTR. DTR had more wins last year than the team does this year.
I thought DTR only had 1 win. Am I wrong?
The Colts game? No. San Francisco. No, he beat San Fran. Yep. I'm pretty sure DTR was the one that came in when we beat the 49ers.
Could have been.
I am almost positive. That was my first show.
It's tough to remember because it was so like DTR, and then it was PJ Walker, then it was back to DTR, then it was on to back to Watson again, then Flacco is all over the map.
Gregory says, I just hate seeing so much prime talent wasted. And that's the thing. We got not only the highest paid roster in the league, but when the hell do we show up and let it know that we're paying these guys to catch a ball, to block a quarterback, to throw a ball? You guys watched it. If anybody watched that Kansas City game last night, did you watch it all, Chad?
No, I purposely didn't watch it because I was just kind of frustrated with football. And it's kind of funny because it was
PJ Walker that beat the Niners.
That was the Steelers, right?
Yeah. Sorry, James says DTR beat the Quit typing, guys. DTR beat Pittsburgh. He was crying. PJ Walker was the one that beat the Niners.
Yes, it was the Pittsburgh game. So yesterday was Pittsburgh, Kansas City, right?
No, yesterday was Kansas City and who the hell did they play? I watched it till the third quarter, then I passed out.
Why am I so blank on this? Was it New Orleans?
Yes, Saints. Yes,
New Orleans. Yeah. Okay. So I just couldn't take football anymore, to be honest.
So you see,
I heard Kareem Hunt was awesome.
117 yards,
what I
man.
heard.
Everybody's. I'm sure. Not, I can't believe there wasn't a Kareem Hunt comment yet, and I'm going to get to that in a second.
And it is
when
pretty
we
crazy.
do.
And I've been talking a lot about like I kind of thought Kareem Hunt was done. Obviously, he's got to do more than one good game for me to be impressed. But like that's more than he had in Cleveland at any time the last 2+ years. Like what the heck?
But that's another guy that came off the couch and is now playing again with a Super Bowl offensive line. So you got to take that in consideration and move along, folks.
Yeah.
You wouldn't do it here.
Yeah.
You would not do that here.
So real quick, because we're kind of rolling through it, to finish up the media takes, here's the two things from Daryl Ryder outside of what we just talked about that he had tweeted specifically. One was from the Kevin Stefanski press conference. So this is a Daryl Ryder tweet, but it's actually Kevin Stefanski's quote. And it was in response to the ownership on the role of the quarterback decision. Kevin's answer was, I wouldn't get into all the specifics. I think you guys know that we make our decisions together. I obviously talk to Andrew about everything we do, and we talk to ownership about everything we do, and that's how we operate. And that's where everything spun to that, like, oh, he's not making this decision. The ownership and Andrew Berry are. And I just don't know if you can take from that tweet if that's true or not with who gets the final say, but it certainly does sound like he's not going to make any move without both of them saying, like, go ahead. And fans are really upset about that, but I got to be honest, I think probably 30 of the head coaches in the league probably have to do that in a situation like this. And there's not many situations like this where you have such a huge investment in a quarterback. But I would think most coaches, aside from just a few that really, really have like tenure, don't get to make the final say on a move as big as sitting the quote unquote franchise quarterback. I don't know.
Yeah, not everybody's Bill
The only
Belichick.
example I could think of, the only example I could think of is somebody like Bill Belichick, who's not even coaching right now, or Shanahan. I feel like was the one who made the call. Like, I cannot play my offense with Lance, and they traded him off, and they had traded 3 picks to get up in the first round and get him. And so that's the closest thing I could think of, but the only situation I could think of where a coach was able to do that. And now you're looking at a coach who has been to the Super Bowl multiple times and who runs one of the best offenses in the league and found a way to win with Brock Purdy. And so you can say, yeah, I'm not going to play with this guy. I think that's a different level, but
Sam says, I will fight for my right to party. Let's go help our Americans down south. One United States under God. Yeah. Prayers for the people down south as well right now. Obviously, there's a lot going on. Chad's on the other side of the world. Well, the country, I guess. But, dude, for some reason today, I almost texted you like, bro, you all right? Like,
I mean, it's as far. I think it's as far for you guys to fly to like London as it is for you to fly out
right.
to
Well,
see me. So
I, for some reason, had a brain fart earlier, dude. I'm like, Chad's in Florida. I should check on him. Like, it's coming. And I was like, no, dumbass. He's on the other side of the country.
yeah, I'm in the clear. So okay, we got one more Daryl Ryder. I like this one actually. I want your thoughts on this one. This one was from Daryl yesterday, and it's Browns players said after this debacle, Deshaun isn't our problem. And there's some truth to that. Also part of the problem, though, is those players don't block for him, they don't run for him, they don't catch passes for him. The truth is in their play, not their post-game quotes. Do you buy that, or do you think Daryl's reaching?
Reaching by far. That's all bullshit. These guys at the end of the day have a job to do, and they come up here and they try to do their job. My biggest thing,
I think he was just in a bad mood, to be honest. And the fact that he's like, oh, they're purposely dropping. I mean, he's essentially suggesting they're not running hard, they're purposely not blocking, or they're not catching passes because it's Deshaun. I don't believe that for a second.
No.
I haven't seen one thing from this team to suggest to me that they hate Deshaun. I haven't seen anything from this team that suggests to me that they don't want him or themselves to succeed. I think they're just playing sloppy, and to say like they're not running, like we've seen Ford play for multiple years now. He is who he is. He makes a couple big plays and then he loses yardage. It's not that he's playing different with Deshaun. It's just that's him. And like the receivers, like I've talked about this, Cooper has a very long history of dropping passes. So does Jerry Jeudy. They're way worse right now than history. But I don't think it's because they don't like Deshaun or don't want to play for him. They're playing for themselves. They also have to make their own careers. Cooper is on a contract year. I'm more likely to believe the time they missed in training camp and everybody being like so under pressure to make a big play is more of a reason for these mistakes than they don't like to play for Deshaun. Like, give me a break.
We got 2 really good comments I want to hit. Excuse me. Guru says, I mean, how do you block for a guy? Now they're commenting again. I mean, how do you block for a guy who runs out of the clean pocket directly into a defender? And that is a big thing that we've talked about previous weeks. They're there to protect the pocket. Deshaun can run out of a clean pocket. We've seen that. But he could also run out of a dirty pocket and get sacked. I think these guys do not know that he's going to run right, left. Which way do we block? We've had this conversation numerous times. Gregory says they still have to make their money. Why would they want bad film? Why would they want bad film? But
right. That's what I agree with. A lot of these guys are on a contract year. They're not going to I'm not going to block because it's Deshaun. You're going to go to your next team and be like, hey, just so you know, I'm still really good. You should sign me as a free agent. I only didn't block last year because I don't really like that quarterback. And the coach is going to be, the GM's going to say like, okay, so we have to find a quarterback you like to block for? Like, how are you going to explain that later?
Exactly.
Like, I don't know. But anyways, I thought that was such a ridiculous tweet. Like, if the players, they're not going to say like Deshaun's the problem, but the fact that they all so quickly were like, it's not Deshaun, it's everybody, we're a mess, like tells me that they believe that they're a mess, not that like they're lying and they really just don't like Deshaun. I don't buy that.
And James Frank says Coop has incentives in that contract. So does Nick Chubb, actually. If he comes back, he's got incentives. Everybody's like, this is what pisses me off the most about the Nick Chubb thing. Honestly, all these people are like, oh, you guys are taking money from Nick Chubb, the best guy we got. No, we are giving him incentives to make his whole paycheck.
Yeah, the alternative was you're probably going to miss half this season. We're going to cut you, and because you're coming off this injury and can't pass a physical, nobody is going to pick you up, and you'll be in limbo. And now it's more like we adjusted your contract so that we have a reason to keep you around, and when you get back, you can earn that money by playing. Yeah. And I also think like I said, these drops and things like that are a problem for these receivers. But I did the numbers. Like Amari Cooper's worst season of drops is 12. That's with the Browns. His second worst season in drops was 8. Also with the Browns. The problem is he's already got like, I think 6 this year. And those other 2 were in a whole season, which means he's on pace for 27. I don't believe he's going to drop 27 passes. I'm sure he'll have some regression to the mean. But chances are this will end up being his worst year because he has half of his absolute worst season in only 5 games, and there's still 12 to go. So he probably will have his worst season. This, to me, is more of you missed time in camp, you're getting a little older, the pressure's on. And in regards to his contract, this is why I was nervous guaranteeing him that $20 million with $5 million in incentives when the other alternative was not guaranteed $20 million, because right now you gave him that money and he looks terrible. And now like trading him would be such a mess because you've already gave him 19 of his 20 million guaranteed. Like it makes trading him even more tricky because you've already paid him basically. And now you'd have to convince some team we want some of the money back.
Yeah.
Too.
Caitlin, thank you for joining the show. Stay safe down there in Florida. I did shout you out. You guys be safe out there. It's actually a really good friend of mine. The Frames, they live down there, and Not looking good, but yeah, you guys stay safe out there.
It's been a mess down there. I'm glad I got out of that area in time.
Yeah. Our receivers just got those Diddy fingers.
No comment.
Yeah.
We already hit that one. So we can move on to the rumor mill. We're kind of getting towards the end of the pod, but we got a couple more things to hit, right?
Yeah, let's jump right into it. Stefanski had another press conference, correct? And
Yeah, a lot from Stefanski this week.
it was kind of a different one where, like, he didn't say he was going to give up play calling. He did not say that exactly, but he kind of hinted towards it. And could this be good for him or bad for him in the long run? Do you think if they gave play calling to Ken Dorsey, do you think there'd be a different outcome? I mean, what are the possibilities here?
So I've always been for Kevin calling the plays because I think he does a pretty good job of it. He fudges up. He does a Jedrick Wills like once a game where he just completely baffles you and you're like, what were you doing there? It was like it was looking good and then you totally whiff one time. I hated the jet sweeps and I hate every once in a while where it's 4th and 1 and you have Chubb back there or something and he's like, haha, I've got this great bootleg play. So he does get you one time, but overall, I think he's a good play caller. Basically the rumor came from the fact they'd ask if he's give up play calling, and he didn't really answer. He said, we'll always consider that, and right now I got to do what's best for the team, which created the speculation that he could give it up. And I would say I agree because he has come out at other times and said, nope, I'm calling plays. And he's kind of backtracking on that and saying, we'll look at it. And if I were him, I honestly probably would give up play calling for 2 reasons. One, he's in a tough spot for this organization right now because he's been very good and right now everything looks very bad. If you give up the play calling and it continues to look bad, now it looks like it's someone else's offense that's failing more than what yours was doing. The second thing is because this isn't his offense, maybe giving up play calling for, I don't know, even 4 games, even for the next month to see, does Dorsey call his playbook better than I'm calling it, might be worth it to this team. And it also gives like some change without a crazy firing or huge move for you to like hang your hat on, like we tried something different. And then if it doesn't work, you have all the more reason in this offseason to say, hey, we brought in Dorsey. We tried his playbook. It didn't work. I don't like moving on from guys quick, but at least I know what Stefanski's offense looks like. So if they move on from Dorsey, you're just rolling it back a year. You're not like completely blowing it up.
Right. All the guys that are on YouTube right now commenting, hit the like button in there, subscribe. Thank you guys for joining us all tonight. All 57 of you right now. Much appreciated. But yeah, you got to give it a shot, Chad. You have to try it, man. Everybody's so against Stefanski right now. You said you seen more in the chat earlier. You saw more get rid of Barry than Stefanski, correct?
I've seen a lot of Barry. Yeah, I've seen a lot of Barry.
In Cleveland, we're hearing
and
a lot
think,
of Stefanski.
Honestly, I think a lot of the Barry comes from people are pissed about Watson. That story came out that was kind of Barry's decision to make that push. And even if it's not, people think it's Haslam. I've always believed it was probably more Barry with Haslam's blessing. That's just me. But now it's looking like reporters are saying we've heard from people and it was Barry making that push. And I'll just say this for the last time. I get what he was doing at the time. Deshaun Watson, when he was good, was incredible. It didn't work out. But I think most people are now like, well, you're the person that put us in this mess. So now they're looking for blood. And I think more people are mad about Barry bringing in Watson than they are about how Watson looks in Deshaun's offensive scheme or in Stefanski's offensive scheme. So I get it. And I've seen both, though. I've seen people being like, we need to fire the coach. I've seen a ton of people say blow it up. We had a poll earlier, and the number, it was, what would you get rid of? Barry, Stefanski, Watson, or everybody? And the number 2 answers were get rid of Watson and get rid of everybody. So people are ready to just blow it up if they have to.
I'm going to hit a couple of these comments really quick. We lose now. What's the worst? What's the worst that could happen? We still lose. We may lose by less. Do you, do you do you see Kevin Stefanski surviving a tank by Gregory? Drew says you definitely can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. Which again, I'm gonna touch base with that here shortly. James Frank says, "Boom, Chad, you're onto something at this point. There's nothing to lose." He still likes John Dorsey more than Barry. Mike says, "Get rid of the whole team and start over." I wouldn't go that far. Maybe the coaching staff.
I'm not ready for that because I'm sick of the rebuild and I've seen enough positives from Stefanski to think okay, he's not necessarily the person you have to get rid of. And I just don't think you're going to get rid of Watson because of how much they invested in him. It would be weird to get rid of Barry and leave Watson here. But I just think at this point, I mean, I honestly don't know what you do. I don't know. I don't know how you fix this. If I'm being realistic, I think the most likely scenario is they just ride this out, and we can talk a little bit about why I would think that. But
we can say that for next week, depending on what happens Sunday.
I don't even know what the right move is. The right move is moving on from Watson, to be honest, but they can't. He's the one that's stuck. So, and I'm not saying there's no way to do it. I'm just saying they're probably not going to do it right now.
It was an easy out for him, like you said earlier. Obviously, the guaranteed money was paying for all the situations that he was going through, and that's it. And I don't know if you watched the show that I did Sunday at all, but I was at a loss of words, Chad. I mean, I got my frustrations out at the same time, but what can we do to make this team better now? And like you said, I don't think there really is anything. You could try to change stuff up a little bit here and there, but at the end of the day, it's still going to be the same format. Same outcome. It's sad. It is sad because, like I said on Sunday, we've had all this anticipation coming into this year with high hopes, again, as Clevelanders normally do, and then we get shit on. Once again. It's simple.
Yeah, that's the sad news is I get all this crap online about oh, Cleveland fans, you suck. You pushed Baker out of town and then you brought in Watson, this, problem child of more graphic detail than that. And it's I hate to tell the rest of the NFL fans, media, and everybody else, we don't really make that decision. I think people that got on board were only on board because it was either they hated Baker, which was definitely not me, or they're okay, well, they brought in Watson, let's go. Let's hope we have the Watson from Texas after that year he took off, and let's hope the suspension doesn't kill him. But news flash to the rest of the NFL, we didn't make that call. We're suffering through it. We're not the decision makers here. We're just watching and riding along.
And just
we're not driving the car. If the bus driver rolls it off a cliff, you don't look at the passengers and go, see what you did? It's not us.
I'd rather be in the bus when the Browns play. I'm just saying.
We're just there for the ride. But
before we get to the next spot, everybody make sure you go and follow CB Excavating on Facebook. For all your excavating needs, they will take care of you. Anything you need, give Chris a call. All his information is down there below. Scrolling across. Also, the Doug White Allstate Insurance Agency in Olmsted Falls. You guys need insurance? Anything? Insurance on the Browns? Your feelings? Just give him a call. He'll take care of you. I need insurance on my feelings.
Yeah, tell me about it.
But let's get back into it. Can this be fixed, Chad? And where do we go now? What would you do?
People are not going to like my answer.
I want to say, hold on. How would you do this? Are you in Andrew Berry's shoes? Are you in Jimmy Haslam's shoes? Are you in Kevin Stefanski's shoes? Put yourself in that predicament.
If I'm looking at it from Andrew Berry, Andrew Berry, there's nothing he can do right now. People treat the GM like he's making a ton of in-season calls. He's not going to trade for somebody right now. There's nobody he's going to ditch off because of this season. People are move on from Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper's getting traded. We got Amari Cooper for a 5th round pick when he was 27. He's 30 and more expensive than ever. he's at the end of a contract and he's about to be, in that decline era if he's not there already. Nobody's giving us any more than a sixth from him, and you're not fixing the team with the sixth. Your best bet is just to hold him. So Barry's not going to do anything. So from the Stefanski position, I'm not going to fire Dorsey at this point. I'm either giving him play calling and letting him dig his own grave, or I'm just rolling steady. And I guess I'd say there's nothing that you can do to fix this team. For everybody that thinks we should bring in Jameis, I mean, that's the very popular take rolling around, like bring in Jameis. The reason I'm not ready to do that, and the only reason, because I would very highly believe Jameis could do better than Watson, because Watson is seeing ghosts. He got beat up to start this season. He's coming off that injury, and I fully believe he's hesitant to throw the ball when there's open guys. He is bailing out of the pocket, but he's getting rushed so bad, he probably feels the pressure and feels like he needs to. But although Jameis might be able to come in and lay a spark, I think it's too late to make a reasonable playoff run. And that leaves you at the end of this season probably not making the playoffs and still having not seen one full season of Deshaun Watson. So if I'm Stefanski, here's what I'm doing. I'm working with Deshaun and saying, hey, you either make this work this year or there's going to be crazy changes next year, and it could involve all of us. And then you put him out there, you let him play through this, and through that time, you've got linemen coming back from injury, you've got receivers working through these drops and figuring out chemistry with him, you've got Nick Chubb potentially eventually coming back and relieving your running back room a little bit. And realistically, the only way I feel like you go into next year with any hope is that as all those people came back and as Deshaun gets farther from that surgery, things start to come together and you can see what this team looks like with him in November and December. You see whether he can keep from getting injured. You see whether he can kind of pull this train back on the tracks. And if not, at least you go into next year feeling like we gave him that whole season. We're going to have to draft somebody or do something dramatic. I'm not making that dramatic move in the situation they're in with Watson unless I forced him to play through this entire season.
One thing I wanted to touch
Which
base
sucks,
with
by the way.
Oh, it does. It does. One thing I wanted to touch base. I'll get to that in a minute. I'm gonna put myself in Stefanski's shoes. Okay. I'm gonna fire everybody on my coaching staff
Now?
right now. What do we have to lose?
Coaches.
What do we have to? What are they doing? What are they? Name anything they're doing. Running backs coach.
Well, here would be my response. Who is going to take a coaching job here if you fire all of your coaches on week 5?
What is it going to hurt? I mean, we got complete shit right now. Bring in some more shit. Let's see if it can maybe help.
I don't know that there's anybody available in week 5 to bring in.
We could bring in a college coach. College would love to come to the NFL, right?
Not
we did it
in
with
the middle
Dickerson.
of a college season.
Absolutely not.
Dude,
but
college coaches aren't leaving right now. Nobody good.
No, I really honestly, I do not know what this team needs. I'm not going to say a whole rebuild. You're not going to do that. We started this rebuild, 5 years ago now? And I liked where we were at, but now you can't change the morale of the team. When I looked at that sideline on Sunday and seeing everybody completely wiped out, didn't look like they even wanted to be there. That was the most distraught moment as a Browns fan. Like, wow, you guys, I'm not going to say gave up, but it looks like there's no plan forward. That's all. I mean, I don't know what I would do.
Like
honestly,
I said, it kind of feels like the only realistic decisions are you can bench Deshaun and play another player. Or
I
you
would do
can
that first
Dorsey.
and foremost.
You
Yes.
can either fire Dorsey and take over as an OC yourself and not have another OC, which is problematic because he's also the quarterback's coach. So that's the position they put him in. You fire Dorsey, yes, Stefanski can call the plays, but it means he can't head coach the team all week because he's got to play offensive coordinator. He's never done that. He's always had AVP or Dorsey to create the weekly game plan and coach the quarterback.
I figured out what I would do. Since we're already completely fucked, why does it even matter, right? Here's what I would do. As Stefanski, I would bench Watson, put Jameis Winston, and shut everybody up. Here you go. This is what you wanted. This is what you guys got. Do you think the line's blocking better? Do you think the defense is doing better because Jameis Winston's in there? I mean, here, you guys wanted this, you got it. This is what you wanted.
Yeah.
Ask and you shall receive. Game on.
Yeah, and like I said, I wouldn't be shocked if they were slightly better because I watched some of the film from this week, and there was several plays where Deshaun didn't make a quick throw or didn't push the ball down the field, and he could have. So that is the part that's on him. There is a Deshaun Watson element where he's not playing good, and maybe Winston, just like Flacco, can go out there and be like, I'm just going to hike the ball, make my pre-read. I'll risk the interception by making the throw, and maybe it will work out more than it doesn't. Again, my only worry about that, because in the short term, maybe you get a little boost, but you're still probably too little too late. You're not 3-3, you're 1-4. So you're probably not making the playoffs because we know historically Jameis Winston's not a 9-3 type of quarterback. He's more like a 6-6 type of quarterback, 7-5, 5-7.
I
He's
agree.
more like a 500 guy. So like, yeah, you can improve morale. You can improve our team, our watching experience. But in the long run, you end another season with 2 more years of Deshaun, to me, not having given him in 3 full seasons, not once giving him a full season to play. And to me, that would bother me because if you're going to get him anything out of him, it's going to be by forcing him to play through this, not sitting him. He's not a rookie. He either plays through this and he digs himself out of it, or he plays his way out of town, to me. And so that's why I'm like, sorry, fans. I know it sucks for us, but I'm playing Watson into the ground. And if he gets hurt or he just gets totally rattled, fine. At least we can end the year and have some direction going forward and not go into the offseason saying, like, what do we do with Deshaun? We have to pay him 2 more years. We don't know if he's even any good.
150 million. There's a couple things that are going to happen after the restructure of his contract. Obviously, they incorporated, if another case, not the previous one, pops up, like a fresh one, it can be done. That's it. You're gone, dude. And we receive the money back. And I believe we only would get like 90 million of the 150 back. I believe it is. I can't remember exactly, but
again, it would help, but I doubt it's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, sad that that's what fans are hoping for. Like, I hope my quarterback is suspended, so at least I have a shot at getting this money back. But
Jen says Deshaun is not giving himself. Oh crap! Everybody keeps talking. Deshaun is not giving himself the season to play. I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up on the IR by week 7.
Yeah, and here's the thing, though. If he ends up on the IR, good. Then Jameis will get in anyway. Like, that. What's the problem there? Like, fine.
Well, I mean, as many sacks as he's taken.
At least you can say, hey, Deshaun, we kept him for 3 years. He was suspended for 1. He got hurt for 2. Now I feel okay drafting a quarterback because now I don't believe he can stay healthy. Or, wow, Deshaun stunk all season, got no better even when we brought more linemen back. Our receivers got more in sync. Our running backs got better. He still stunk. Now you feel like you can move on from him. And I know it stinks in the short term, and Jameis might be more fun to watch right now, but I just think the best thing for this team going forward is actually just play Deshaun into the ground, and he either sinks or swims.
Yeah.
And I'm fine if anybody disagrees because they're like, I'd just rather watch good football. But to me, if you move on from him now, you better be ready to move on from him for the future. And if you're doing that, you might as well just play him into the ground.
Right.
He might end up hurt, and you might end up with Jameis anyway.
One other thing I wanted to bring up, since our season is already pretty much shot, I know we're going into week 6, but do you think it's worth bringing in Nick Chubb to see what he could do? Or do you think
this is a perfect question. The longer you can hold out Nick Chubb, the longer I'm holding out Nick Chubb. He's got 3 weeks to get on the active roster, and I'm fine with putting him on there. But I am very likely to say, relax for an extra game or 2 until you are absolutely as solid as possible, because this team has to get this figured out. And he's going to want to come back. We all know he's not the guy to be like, sure, I'll sit back and collect my paycheck. Like, you could even guarantee him, like, we'd rather you sit a little bit and we'd want to, you look good. We want to extend you an extra year. Let's talk about that. But man, if there's ever a time not to rush him back, it's now. If we were 500 right now, I'd be like, get him in here when he's ready to go. And let's see if he can help us get some extra wins. But right now, I just don't believe those extra wins help unless you have turned the entire team around. And unless I see that, you might as well sit till November.
Yeah, because if we do, excuse me, if we don't put him back on, he goes right back to PUP, right? Another 4 weeks.
Well, they don't have to play him though. They just have to put him on the active roster.
Right.
It doesn't mean
you have 21 days to do that.
Yeah, it doesn't mean he has to dress for the game on the 24th or whatever day that is, the 27th. He doesn't have to actually dress for that game. He could just not play. And he could not play on the 3rd, and he could come back November 10th or whatever. It's just a matter of, like, if he has to go on the active roster in 3 weeks, or they have to put him on full year IR. And I think they're ready to put him on the active roster. I'm not in any rush to get him out there. You tell Jerome Ford and Foreman to get their act together and hold this team down until he's back. Or
I
else
agree.
whichever one of them can't seem to get it done is out when he comes in the door. So,
and again, that brings us back to the offensive line. Like, they can't do a whole lot with 0 blocks. You can't open up a
speaking of
gap.
the offensive line, I'm so glad you pivoted into that, because we were about to talk about the PFF scores of the offense and the defense of this game, just to see if there's anybody on this team who played well. And I just wanted to point out that the 3rd highest grade on the Browns offense this week was, any guesses?
Do you want me to say?
Jedrick Wills.
Yeah.
So big one of these for everybody who gave me crap all offseason about how Jedrick Wills is the worst tackle on the planet and they'd rather play Hudson or anybody else over him. Meanwhile, we have Ethan Pochich, who put up a 48. We've got DeJuan Jones, who put up a 48. That's a huge failing grade. Nick Harris, 53. Zach Zinter, 55. Joel Bitonio, 64. Jedrick Wills, 66. The best offensive lineman grade of the week was a guy coming off a knee surgery who came back 2 weeks ago only to get his leg rolled up on and miss another week. And now I'm not saying he's back. I'm not saying he's great. I'm just saying to everybody out there who said he has no chance of ever being good, we should just cut him and not even let him back here. You desperately needed somebody to play lineman, and the only one who played well was Jedrick Wills, the most hated Brown outside of Deshaun Watson on this entire squad.
You guys want to hear something else? A fun fact about another offensive PFF score?
Vindicated.
Jordan Akins, tight end, with a 79.
That was our second best player on the entire team.
Yes, and that's a tight end that was covering for David Njoku, which had a 59. I mean,
yeah. And again, I'll say this a million times. When a player is coming in their first 1, 2, 3 games off an injury, or an in-season injury, or an off-season surgery, do not expect their first game back to be very good. You can look through the entire NFL and usually it's not. Kirk Cousins' first game and second game stunk. Aaron Rodgers' first and second game stunk. Guys coming off surgeries are not good when they first get back on the field. That's why I'm actually surprised. Like, I don't expect Jedrick Wills. I don't think he's an amazing lineman. I joke because so many people are hard on me for thinking he's worth playing at left tackle, or I was hoping he would get back. A lot of people were literally texting me saying, I hope he never comes back. Like, you hope a 25-year-old kid never gets back to his career?
I was that guy.
Awful. Yeah, I just think like a ton of people were. They're like, I hate him and I hope he's never gets back from this injury. And I'm like, guy, he misses a block once a game, but he's only 25. He's finishing up his first contract as a rookie. Like, let him come back from his injury and like try to revive his career, especially when everybody else is injured. You need somebody to play tackle.
James asked what JOK's grade was. He was a 90.9.
Best player on the team. And in fact, this year with Deshaun Watson, with this year with Myles Garrett struggling with the foot problems, JOK is our best defensive player, and it's not close.
Hands down.
He's game after game, he's shown up, he's making tackles, he's running around the field. He is a foundational piece that I could not be happier that they signed before he started putting up these grades and before he started having the productivity he's having. And he had a great year last year, but this year, I mean, when you're outshining Myles Garrett, like that is incredible. And Myles had another decent green game at 75. We got a really good game out of Winston Reed, who is a backup linebacker that's been playing. He had an 89.
Sorry, I'm reading the comments.
But I can only guess they're all like, I still hate Jedrick Wills.
There was a couple of those, but
well.
here, I'm gonna. Mike says, I've got the cure for this team. Punt on first down and let the defense win it. No more Watson or Dorsey controversy.
There's been multiple games this year where kneeling 3 times and punting would have probably been better.
Right. But hey, we got special teams, so let's give it up for our special teams, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. I'll also say this, by the way, they went over our third down percentage and how bad we were on third down. They said something like 7 of our 12 third downs, it was third down and 8 to 15. And I was like, how? You could just kneel on first and second down and it won't be 3rd and 15.
Right.
They're like, what are you doing?
That's the way the cookie crumbles in the NFL, man.
All right, let me roll through these PFF scores real quick. So players that actually played well on the defense. Jeremiah Wusu-Koramoah, 91. We said Winston Reed was almost a 90. Garrett, Nathaniel Watson, which you got to be a little excited about. DeAnthony Bell and Devin Bush and Zadarius Smith were all like B-level players. And then Ronnie Hickman and Grant Delpit played really well. Another game where the cornerbacks did not play well. And this has been like 3 times this season where the corners were having problems and the safeties weren't. So I can't figure out what's happening. We have not played killer receivers in any of these games. So that's a problem. And I believe in the players. So it's time to start looking at the cornerbacks coach and the defensive coordinator and saying, what's happening on the back end, guys?
Not only that, in our Saturday show, we've mentioned who you got to cover, what your job is to do, and who to put on them, and they don't. It's been the complete opposite and horrible. Sorry. Go ahead.
And then on the offensive side, like you mentioned, Jordan Akins had a 79. That's very good. Deontay Foreman had a 70. Jedrick Wills had a 66. Amari Cooper had a 65. Batoni had a 64. Nobody else on this team is even worth mentioning on the offensive side. Everybody else was like yellow or more like orange or red, which are guys that, if you don't know PFF, means they shouldn't be playing even backup on your team. If they're red, they shouldn't even be on your roster. If they're orange, they're below average as a starter and should be a backup at best. And if they're yellow, they're an average starter. Green is a good starter, and blue is like elite level. Your only blue player was Jordan Akins, and I think it was mostly blocking. And pretty much everybody else kind of faded from there. On the defensive side, at least you had a couple elite guys in Winston Reed and JOK, and then a couple really high starters in Delpit, Hickman, Smith, Bush, Bell, Watson, Garrett. Everybody else was in the orange. And again, that is a backup level player.
Yeah.
I don't know what to make of it. Ward was terrible.
Right.
Cameron Mitchell was terrible. Greg Newsome and Martin Emerson was terrible. Emerson has been getting roasted this season. I don't know if he was reading his clippings all off season either, but like this year, he is getting pummeled by everybody. And after an entire camp of like, oh, he covered really well against Justin Jefferson against the Vikings camp. Like, okay.
Camp.
Yeah, was that your Super Bowl? Because the real season's
Right.
here and it's time to get covering these guys. And that is our PFF roundup.
So let's go a little bit into the AFC North before we end this. The Ravens definitely stole one from the Bengals.
Segment.
You want to know what's good though? Is at least the Bengals are finally trying to find a fucking identity while we're just sitting here and I don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, the Ravens stole one from them, but the Bengals looked good enough to beat the heck out of us in that game. And I think probably they could have beaten most of the NFL that game. The Ravens just happen to be the one team in our division who consistently finds a way to win. Their defense is struggling, but it's good enough, and Lamar and that offense is going to end up pulling them to the top of this division again. And then the Steelers, Dallas was able to clip them with a touchdown with 2 seconds left in order to win that game. And I think that was Sunday night. That's why I was confusing Monday night. That was Sunday night. And I also didn't watch that because I didn't have the heart to watch the Steelers win a game against Dallas after they beat us and after we had lost another one. So I didn't watch it on purpose. And then I got the game notification. It was over. And I was like, oh my God.
As the cool kids like to say, no cap. I woke up during the last 10 seconds of that game and watched it. And I was like,
did you really?
Yes. I
couldn't even turn on the end.
I fell asleep.
They're going to make some stop, and I'm going to be so mad. But they didn't.
I'm surprised.
And then you said to talk about the entire AFC North. I think we kind of did. The Bengals are finding an identity and getting back. They start slow every year. We should just expect that. And they're getting back to running their offense and getting things done. The Steelers are kind of exactly what I thought they would be with Justin Fields, except for he's running for a couple more touchdowns than I expected, and he's kind of holding them afloat. I guess they've got Russell Wilson back at practice this week, and so it'll be weird to see what direction they decide to go there. But they're in a little bit of a quarterback controversy. They're still better than us, and the Ravens look like the best team in the division. And as flawed as they are, I mean,
you got Derrick Henry, dude. And Lamar Jackson. That's, I guess, all you need.
We can't tackle Derek Singletary. We're going to get pummeled by Derrick Henry this year.
Yeah. I'm going to do our seconds of fame real quick because I do have a question.
We'll get things started with the dynamic kickoff.
I know the quick
Whoa.
take is simple. Blame.
That all got jacked up. 30 seconds of fame. Here we go. So now we know that the AFC North isn't the number one division in the league this year. Who would you say is? You want me to go first?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the NFC North, the Vikings, Detroit Lions, Green Bay Packers, and Chicago Bears.
Yeah, you might be right. The Bears leave a little bit to be desired, but they're still competing, and those other three teams are all playoff caliber teams.
I mean,
honestly, I don't love the Raiders, but the Chargers have pulled themselves together, and the Chiefs are a lock. So that's also going to be a pretty good division. Maybe it's a little top heavy with the top two, but better than ours.
Yeah, I mean,
Tampa Bay, and the New Orleans Saints and the Atlanta Falcons
South,
all look much more competitive than we are right now.
Yeah, but then you got the Panthers that are in the same shoes as us, so I wouldn't.
Are bad. Yeah, but so are we. It's definitely not the AFC North though. Like last year, it was very clearly the AFC North. This year, that is not the case. There's no way. I think you're probably right. I would say right now, probably the NFC North is the group that looks like it has 4 competitive teams and 3 that are possibly playoff bound.
It's just crazy year in football.
All right.
But yeah.
Well, we got to go up against the 2-2 Eagles this week. You guys can cover a little bit more of that since we're out of time on the weekend show, but it's no easy task. They're not unbeatable. They look like they're flawed and trying to find their own identity, but they have an incredible running back that I don't know if we have any answers for. And truly, we have no offense to speak of, so I just don't know how you can go into any game right now feeling like you're not the deep underdog.
Yeah, I got some stuff for that for Saturday for sure. I almost just let it all out now, but
no, we're overtime.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, join Angel and myself Saturday. If you could join, Chad, it'd be cool. If not, then that's fine too. We're used to you not joining the Saturday show so far.
No, it's kind of a bummer that it's the time change for the Saturday show, but I wouldn't want you guys doing it any later either.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, we will see you guys Saturday. Thank you for joining us. Remember, hit the like, subscribe, and share button. Share it all, and be sure to hit us up on YouTube and Instagram, X, everything. But yeah, until then, we will